Another way you can see these percent problems is something like this. 5 is what percent of 8? But if I do the same sort of process I did on that the last video, you'll notice 5 just comes down as 5, is comes down as an equal sign, of comes down as times, and 8, well, stays 8. The only thing that I didn't fill in here is the what percent, and I'm going to go ahead and call that just x. The percents I generally consider a formatting of the number, and so whatever value I get for x here, I'm just going to rewrite it as a percent at the end. I'm going to change its formatting. So I get 5 equals x times 8. The nice thing about writing it like this is now I can see, well, I just need to divide both sides by 8, because the 8s will cancel out over here, and I get x equals 5/8. So I can ask my calculator what x equals 5/8 is, or what 5/8 is, rather. That's 0.625. Now to finish this up, I just want to rewrite x so that it's as a percent, which means I'm going to move my decimal place 2 places to the right as I introduce my percent symbol. So I get 62.5%. You can see this same sort of question written a couple of different ways. What percent of 8 is 5? This would be some number of 8. So again, of becomes times is 5. It's just translating everything. Find what percent of 8 is, or sorry, find what percent of 5 is, yeah, this is a weird way of saying it. Find what percent of 5 is of 8. Oh, you know what? This is a typo. Find what percent 5 is of 8. There we go. That's how you would actually state it. Not many people actually talk like that. Saying is of. And if you come across something like this, I recommend retranslating it into a way that actually is more natural. Find what percent 5 is of 8. Well, 5 is what percent of 8? That would be my retranslation, and you can see that's exactly this one right here. 5 is what percent of 8. Alright, doing some examples. What percent of 40 is 16 pounds? Or what percent of 40 pounds is 16 pounds? Well, what percent is my unknown? I'll call that x, times 40, because I had of 40. Is becomes my equals, and then I have a 16 there. So to solve this, I just divide both sides by 40. Over here, the 40s cancel out, so I get 16 divided by 40, which is 0.4. And I'll finally convert that to a percent by moving my decimal place 2 places to the right as I introduce my percent symbol. Now, when you're working with these percent problems, you never know which format you're actually going to end up with. I see a lot of people just go into these and say, okay, I'm going to take the smaller number divided by the bigger one, and that's always the way it goes. But that's not a very consistent way to work, because you're going to get, I don't know, a lot of problems wrong, probably about half of them, because you're just guessing how the numbers go together. Instead, I recommend this approach that I'm doing here, actually translating what it says. 65 becomes equals what percent of 25, and it looks like now I need to divide both sides by 25. We get 65 divided by 25 here, which is 2.6. So those cancel out. I get x equals 2.6. Now converting this to a percent, I move the decimal place 2 places to the right, giving me 260%. You can see on this one I actually ended up with something bigger than 100%. There's nothing wrong with that. 65 is more than 100% of 25. And you do occasionally see percents that are bigger than 100%. If you say, well, my original price was $25 and I was actually charged $65, I was charged 260% of the original price. So that's, you know, a quick little example of where you might see something that's bigger than 100%. Find what percent $9.90 is, well, okay, find what percent blah is of blah. Don't get too caught up when you're reading through these. Don't get too caught up on actually reading the number. In my opinion, they're just numbers, whatever. You can always go back and read them later. Focus more on what the sentence is saying. So find what percent, now this is an is of percent question, isn't it? Well, I'm going to take this $9.90 is what percent of 1800. So $9.90 is, and just kind of rephrasing this so that it can be intelligible. We get 9.9 equals some number times 1800. And you can see we need to divide both sides by 1800 here so that those cancel out. We get x equals 9.9 divided by 1800 gives me 0.0055. If I want to convert this to percent, I need to move my decimal place 2 places. So I get 0.55 as I introduce my percent symbol. So 0.55%. With percents, it's always 2 places that you're going to be moving. Always, always, always.